Hello everyone, today I'm reviewing Trains from AEG. It is one of my new favorite games that I've played this year. A deck building card game with a little bit of a twist for 2 to 4 players, and it takes about 45 minutes to play. So let's go ahead and take a look here. The little bit of a twist is this is a deck building card game, but it has a board, and players are going to be laying rails across the board trying to get into as many cities and try to reach as many outlying areas as possible, while using the cards to purchase more cards to gain more revenue, so that they're able to lay more trains and are able to purchase more victory point cards as well. So let's go ahead and look at the components here. We have a board here that is actually double-sided, so it has 2 different maps here. Today we're going to be looking at the map of Tokyo. There are some maps available online in addition to these, so that you can add to the variance of your play. We also, in the game, no trains actually included, but we have lots of cards. We have wooden cubes that represent our railways, as well as some station markers here, or tokens, that will represent stations being built. We have a nice big rule book here, and the lots of extra space. You'll see it comes with some nice styrofoam pieces that will fill the extra space until the wonderful expansions come out to this game, which I'm hoping will come out soon. The card game also comes out with these little dividers, so that you may keep divided all of the cards and easily organize those. So that's very helpful. Let's go ahead and talk about the rule book just for a minute before we get started. One of my the weaknesses of this game, I think, is there's just a few rules that weren't made very clear by the rule book. It's nothing really huge, and as long as you play consistently, you could make house rules and everything with that, so it's not such a big deal. But I do wish they would have clarified just a few of the rules, when we'll get into that maybe a little bit more. But overall, it is a fairly decent rule book. The game example, however, it's nicely color-coded with the different players, but you'll notice there's no actual diagrams showing the example, so that's a little bit of a weakness in my mind. But start a game, that is, you go ahead and shuffle all the randomizer cards here. You have one of each of the 30 different random decks here that you will choose 10 from. And then you also have 8 cards that you will be playing with every single time. Along the top row here I have them. So once you shuffle out all the randomizers, you choose 8 and you get those decks and place them out so everyone can see them as well. You go ahead and put a cube on the starting 0 space, and then each player will choose to place a cube onto the board. And usually you'll want to place them near cities that have potentials for high points, or next to a lot of outlying cities that can also get you points. You score points by placing railways on these outlying cities. Those points you will receive are equal to the number shown on those. And for any cities that you have a railway in and stations. So if you're in a city without one of these stations, you get 0 points. If you have one, it's 2 points, 4 points, and there's a maximum of 2 in that city. Whereas we come over here, you can have 3 stations here, and if you had 3 stations in that city, you would be able to get 8 points. You can also gain points from these victory point cards, purchasing these throughout the game. And since we're looking at the cards here, I'll point out the kind of main income and expense here. So on the left is how much that card in your hand will give you income, and the number on the right in red is how much that card will cost you to purchase. You'll also notice that they're color coded such that the blue cards are your basically train cards and income. The green cards affect your ability to lay down your rails. The purple card is so you can build stations. The red cards are action cards that allow you to utilize different abilities for that round. And then you have the dreaded waste deck. It is a nice massive pile of waste. And the really nice concept in this game that I really like is whenever you're progressing towards point values, as long as you're getting closer and closer and you are getting points, you are also obtaining waste that fill up your deck and do absolutely nothing but fill up your deck and keep you from utilizing all the amazing cards that you've collected throughout the game. So, for example, whenever you purchase a victory card, you have to take a waste when you do that. Whenever you build a rail on the board, you also collect a waste. So, let's go ahead and kind of delve right into the game and give you some examples. Each person will start with a deck of 10 cards that is made up of 7 normal train cards and made up of lay rail cards, as I've drawn one here. And you also have the one station expansion card as well. So everyone starts with the exact same 10 cards. You'll shuffle up your decks and draw 5. You'll draw 5 to start each of your turns. And let's go ahead and look at an example play here. So I will have drawn these 5 cards, 4 normal trains and a lay rails card. So now I have an income of 0 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So I have an income of 4 this round. Now I could go to any of these cards here and purchase a card lower than 4. So this will cost me 2, 3, etc. So this steel bridge costs exactly 4. Now, ability of this bridge is it helps me avoid the extra cost for laying rails over rivers. Well, at this time, I don't want to do that. And actually, I can purchase 2 signals. So I'm going to get 2 signal cards and add them to my deck. They will be put in the discard pile after I am completed. But these are my cards that I purchased this round, so they kind of go in a separate pile. And then that would be the end of my turn there. Now I did draw a lay rails card, and at this time I want to lay as many rails as I can in the game, so I'm going to utilize that card and go ahead and come up here and see where I can lay a rail from. Now, the extra costs, that steel bridge that we mentioned, would come in handy at some point, because to lay a rail on this square here, it would cost me 1 income, 1 money. So, I used up all my money to buy signals this round, so I don't have enough money left over to lay here. If I had that steel bridge, I would be able to lay there. But for now, the only place I can really build is adjacent to another where I started. So the only place I can go right now is there. If to go into an outlying city, I would cost 2 or 3 respectively. So I feel pretty good about that. Oh, but wait. Dun dun dun. The dreaded waste card. So I was able to lay 1 rail, but I have to take 1 waste as well. That's my turn. I take all the cards that I've used that round and purchased, and they go in my discard pile, and then I will draw 5 new cards. My opponent over here, let's see what he drew. He has 4 normal trains, and he drew his station expansion. So he can also purchase something, but he did not draw a lay rails card and will not be able to expand his rail system this turn. But you'll notice that he did start in a city that can have 3 stations. So before he does anything else, he's going to lay that down, and he's going to place a station in the city. That's good. Now that is automatically 2 points that he will have at the end of the game. 4 income remaining. He comes and he's able to look at the what's available to him, and he might be able to purchase an express train, which gives him 2 income instead of the normal train, which only gives him 1. So he's going to purchase that, and he does have 1 income remaining, but he can't really buy anything with that, so his turn is over and game progresses. So if you'll notice, just wanted to point out a few other things on the board. You'll notice some little dividing border pieces here on the board. That means that I would not be able to build here adjacently. I'd have to build to this mountain space first. Now the rule book on the reverse side has a reference for you, field for the extra cost. If field is going to be 0, river 1, mountains will cost 2. If you build into a city, it's going to cost you 1 plus the number of station markers on that city. So in this example, if yellow wanted to build into that city, it would cost him 2 income. 1 because it's a city, and 1 because there's a station there. Now let's pretend like blue had already built into that city. There's a benefit to obtaining and placing rails in these places first. It doesn't mean that the yellow player can't enter the city, it just means that the yellow player will have to pay an additional income, and in this case, when there's another player present, he will have to take an additional waste. So let's say yellow was able to build into that city. He has plenty of income, let's say 5, and a lay rails card. So yellow will be able to place into that city, obtaining those points as well at the end of the game. But it will cost him 1 for the city, 1 for the station, and 1 for the other player currently already in the city, plus an additional waste. So that action, he will have 2 wastes, 1 from the player already being there, and 1 because of the lay rails card itself. The game will progress, and your decks will get large, and as you progress, you will have many waste cards in your deck. If you're unlucky enough, and sometimes it could be beneficial, to draw a hand completely full of waste, you can take a turn and discard all of those wastes back into the waste pile and basically end your turn there. Now you don't have to have a full hand of waste either. You may only have 2 wastes in your hand and let's say 3 normal trains. I could still, for my turn, decide to discard both of these wastes as my action for that turn, and then play would pass on to the other player. Now you may want to do that because you have all this waste and it's piling up in your deck. and really can hamper your ability to purchase the victory point cards and be able to lay the rails where you want them to. It's beneficial to have a lot of money to purchase cards that are worth more victory points, such as the skyscraper would cost 8, but it would get you 4 victory points, while the apartment would only get you 1, and they would both give you a waste. So there's a balance on when to purchase these cards as well, because the victory point cards don't have any real benefit throughout the game as you're playing, but only the victory points at the end. So that is the game. There's many cards. I'd love to go over all of them with you, but I do not have all of that time. So Trains. What do I think of Trains? I think Trains is a fantastic deck building game, and really the introduction of a board is fantastic. The variation of the boards is nice as well. The different landscaping. One of my things that I am a little saddened about are the pieces that you actually play on the board. It makes the game just feel a little more abstract. You just have these wooden cubes. They aren't trains, they aren't pieces of track or anything like that. And the stations are these white cylinders, which, they correspond with the white kind of skyscraper buildings in the cities. But again, these are stations. Anyway, so that's one thing that I really, the components are good quality. I just think it's interesting that the pieces are themselves a little abstract. The rule book, again, is fairly good, and yet it still leaves some things up to question for the players. For example, the extra costs here, I think it's pretty clear, but there's some disagreements there. You can take a house rule as you play this. You'll notice here the remote locations, again, the number cost there. Well, there is, for example, a card in the game called the Subway Excavation. It allows you to lay a rail, you obtain a waste, and all extra costs for laying rails is nullified. So you come over here, it lists this as an extra cost really, so to me that would mean that you would not have to pay to enter into that city. But there's been some disagreement on that, and it would be nice to have some clarification, a little frequently asked questions, or some more examples on maybe some of the specific cards and further detail into those. But the card quality, I really actually kind of like them. They have a little glossy finish on them. They shuffle. I've had a little harder time shuffling these cards for some reason. Maybe they clump together a little bit. That may just be my shuffling style, but the game is fantastic. It flows really well. You really need a kind of a balance. You need to use the board to win the game, I think, but you could have some people who utilize and try to keep their deck slim enough that they are able to just purchase these victory point cards and focus on that. The waste element of the game, where you're obtaining points, but you're also obtaining things into your deck that will keep you from easily obtaining more points. So there's a lot of really nice things built into this game. It's really become one of my favorites of this year, and very excited for any expansions that will come out. So it plays really well. Highly recommend it. I'm going to go ahead and give it my highest rating, my thumbs up, or 10 out of 10 stars on this. Even with the slight rule book, not enough clarification, and kind of the abstract pieces, I can easily look over those for the actual gameplay and cards that they have with the board and everything. It just looks really nice for the artwork of the cards. And again, we have lots of room for expansions, and definitely looking forward to those. So go ahead and check out Trains. I highly recommend it.